You are listening to Written in the Stars, Books and Beyond, where hosts from the LCC Library sit down with writers, publishers, entrepreneurs, and literary enthusiasts of all types. Join your hosts, Amy Ewald, Robin Moore, John Salaiji, and Abby Tebow as we explore the very heart of the written word.
Welcome to Written in the Stars, Books and Beyond. I'm Robin Moore, and beside me is my co-host, Amy Ewald. Today we are joined by Rena Risper. I pray I pronounced her name correctly because she's amazing. Rena is a publisher, a vodcast host, community builder, advocate for underserved and marginalized communities. Rena, welcome, and thank you for being here.
Thank you. I'm very excited to be here today.
Oh, wow. We're excited to have you. So I'm going to have my co-host start off with our questions today. We look forward to hearing more about you.
Awesome. Well, we are so glad that you're here today and we have a chance to talk and
Thank you.
Find out, all about the new Citizens Press. So why don't we start there and tell us what exactly that is and what drove you to start it? How'd you get started with that?
Very interesting. I'll try to make a long story short. I was working for a large company and I didn't get the job that I wanted, so I left. And I went to the LCC Caribbean Festival when it was going on, and I met a gentleman who was walking around indicating that he worked for a newspaper. And I said, I'm a writer, but I didn't write that way. I was a letter writer for the company that I worked for, sort of like compliance. And my family and I went to the Caribbean Festival in Brooklyn, New York that year. And that year was 2001.
Wow. So that was your inspiration?
Well, my inspiration was, first, I left my job. Of course, I didn't know that 9/11 was going to happen. I'd never seen anything like that happen in New York City. I'm born and raised in New York City. Spent my childhood in Brooklyn Hospital watching the Twin Towers blinking back and forth while I colored in my Lulu coloring book. So that was a very trying time. So it was personal. We pick up these personal things based on, what it is that we see when we're children. And it was very devastating for me to come back on Labor Day and then be in the office with my infant daughter and watching that happen. Now, mind you, I just said I'm from New York, and most of my family works for the law enforcement or the airlines.
Oh, wow.
So that was really interesting. And I did pick up that job working for the newspaper. It was another newspaper, and was able to obtain photos from one of my cousins who worked for Mass Transit Authority right on the ground. And that's basically how I got started.
Excuse me for coughing. I'm trying. I don't mean to cough into the mic, but I'm trying to compose myself. But I do want to ask you a question. What's a common misconception people have about careers in publishing?
I think that one of the common misconceptions is that we know everything and we can cover everything, and we have the ability to get information.
Right.
People need to understand it takes so much time, and you can't just come into an office, drop off a box of papers, and then expect us to become 2020 or 60 minutes. That's not how it works. I've had a lot of people come to my office with boxes, and then they get upset because we don't have the funding to do investigative pieces. And most people, when they come to us, I tell them that, you need to look at your situation and think that you may need an attorney for this. So I'm the last person that you want to come to right now to do your story. talk to an attorney first, see where it's going, and then maybe we can swing back around because the attorney's going to do all of the work.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So the New Citizens Press, for some of our listeners who aren't familiar with that. So tell us a little bit about what exactly that is and what your goal is with that.
I mean, we cover so many things. It's not really contingent upon multicultural communities. I mean, everybody wants to know about finance. Everybody wants to know about what's going on in business. Everybody wants to know what's going on in crime or how to go about writing a resume. We post information for people to be able to move ahead. We posted this morning about the East Lansing Police Department looking for a new chief. We post so many different things. We do request that when people want us to write about them, that they provide us with some information. What makes you that person?
Right.
So a lot of it comes through, like with you, Amy, I would say, why are you doing what you do? What made you do this? And then I would probably go back to like childhood. What was your memory that really put you in the place of where you want to be today? And what do you want to do when you grow up? And what do you do at home? People really don't understand that we are a mosaic of everything. I don't know. You could be a cross stitcher, a gardener, a knitter.
Right. We all have these different pieces.
Axe thrower.
Yeah.
Right.
Pork processor. You just never know.
How often does your newspaper come out?
Our newspaper comes out bi-weekly.
Okay.
But we post online all the time. We post online all the time. We're thinking about going to monthly right now because I'm working so hard on documentaries and doing other things. Imagine, I've been doing this since February of 2002.
Yes. I'm familiar. I would see
So I'm in my 25th year.
Yes.
Yeah.
And this actually is my anniversary month.
Wow.
Happy anniversary.
Thank you so much.
Black History Month. Okay.
Black History Month and my month and the month before Women's History. And after that, it's Poetry Month. I really focus on just providing information to people. That's what I love people. That's my hashtag, love people.
Yes.
We've done stories on so many different types of people. The Sikh Indian population and their event that they have downtown, the Latino population. And in the beginning, we were printing in Spanish as well. I'm from the Caribbean, but that became very difficult because of the system. So if you speak English and you're speaking Spanish at the same time and you're trying to make corrections, your correcting machine is like, okay, that's a wrong word. So I stopped doing that early on, but it was a part of our history to do that. And we're archived by the Library of Congress, which a lot of people have no idea about. We are also have editions at the Michigan State Library because I started giving them opportunities to subscribe, and then when they didn't subscribe anymore, I just kept sending it there because I think that it's important to have that type of information for the future.
Yeah, the historical record.
And it's interesting because there was a young lady who called her brother had passed away, and she said to me, "You were the only person that did a story on my brother. My parents didn't want to talk about his death, and I just wanted to say thank you." And that was a long time ago. Willow School is no longer the same. The little tree they planted for him is no longer there, but she and I have that memory.
Oh, wow. So there was a tree planted at Willow School on behalf of the young
man.
The young man that passed away. Okay. That's all righty.
I do think that it's because we don't maintain history.
Yeah.
When somebody moves, or it's just like the legislature. When you have a turnover, whatever's happening is going to have to go all over again. So if you get a new principal, you get a new superintendent, they have no idea that 10 years ago that tree was planted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that.
And it kind of leads me actually to my next question a little bit too, of this idea of this independent and free press in this country, and how do independent journalists and publications kind of stay alive and thrive during
I have great relationships. I've created a relationship with Dana James. She is the publisher of Black Iowa News, and we talk almost weekly so that we can keep ourselves in check with one another. Also, there are advertising opportunities, and that's been very difficult. So then you move to spaces like creating documentaries to supplement that space of the individuals who are moving from print to visual. So you have to be there. You have to morph. You have to shift. You have to create an environment in which everyone wants to be a part of.
Yeah. And I guess this could go into my next question. How do you help amplify and encourage others to find their voice, especially within the written word?
It's hard.
Is it?
But once a year, we have poetry in the city on the Capitol steps.
Yeah.
And we are going into our 21st year. It's every third Thursday in July. So this year it is Thursday, July 17th.
Okay.
Every third Thursday in July. And just as long as you are not using profanity, I don't care if you're 4 or 80, you can get your photo up on the Capitol steps in front of a microphone. And it has been quite fabulous. We've had, last year we had 2 poets from South Africa. We had the 2022 Slam Poet Champion, and a young lady who was the South Africa's Got Talent winner at 11 years old. And she's still the only one who won with poetry.
Wow.
And people can just come and watch, bring a blanket. It's rain or shine. One year it rained really hard, and this guy, he flew in from Georgia.
Wow.
And he was from Atlanta, Georgia, and he flew in. We've had poets from China. One time we had this guy who was just riding down the street. He was from Canada.
Wow.
And he had his book of poetry in his trunk. He was so excited.
Oh, yeah, that's a poet right there. He's got his book with him.
But most poets do.
Yeah.
Most poets do. And if you're not a poet, you're a doodler, or you're a reader, or you're doing something that allows you to be creative, even if it's just having, brownies and watching TV, or watching TV specific to who you are, like Earth.
Yeah.
Television. You don't care what it is. You just want to see about the Serengeti, or you just want to watch things about the Amazon. That's your thing.
That's your thing.
If that's your thing, that's your thing. But we expect you to write a poem about it.
Yes.
Kind of goes back to that mosaic, like you mentioned before. We all have these different pieces to us.
And in today's society, we really should stop putting people in all of these little tiny little ice cube buckets that we put people in, because it doesn't do us any good. People have experiences that are far beyond what we think we see, even in an environment of a work environment. We're just moving past each other without really getting to know one another.
We're limiting. I think we limit each other.
It's absolutely limiting. But the one thing that I think that when you do not limit people, you have to be prepared to be taken advantage of sometimes. And you have to give it up. You just have to say, that's my thing. That's my thing. So not everyone in the world is good.
Yeah.
So even while you're giving your everything to someone, it doesn't mean that it's going to be reciprocal. So just note that in your head when you're doing it, and do it for you, not for them.
Yeah, that's a hard lesson for me personally, as I always try and look for that good, or look for I don't know, maybe it's the optimist in me.
No, that's okay. That's okay.
And it is okay.
Yeah. I live by, when people show you who they are, believe them.
But people may not show you who they are until they've gotten what they wanted.
And
that's true.
And when I see it, I'm like, okay, noted.
Yeah.
Noted.
Like the best intentions. I guess I always feel that, that everybody's always giving it their best or trying, which is true.
Absolutely.
But at the same time, maybe they're giving it their best to scam you, right?
Exactly. And we need to be really careful of that, especially right now. There are so many things going on with, sending out emails to the elderly. I do a lot of stories on that as well, like smishing. You get an email about the post office that has something for you, but this has been.
I get those texts all the time. UPS couldn't deliver your package.
That part.
Yeah.
And if you are waiting for a package,
you assume that it is true.
Or if you have a granddaughter and someone calls and says you need to send $200 because I am not in a good place right now, we just need to be more diligent about who and what we are responding to. It's hard, but we get by.
Yeah. Especially, I like that statement of what we're responding to, right? I think especially right now that you have to be very, where am I directing my energy? What is my response going to be to that?
And to you, I say, some people may think that because you're not directing your energy at them, that it's a problem. They don't consider that you may be dealing with a sick grandmother or whatever other issues you may have. And we get ourselves to the point where, we're thinking things that don't exist. I know that personally for the last couple of months because I've been preparing for this art show, not realizing that I was an artist. I've been knitting since I was 7 in Brooklyn. My mother, she didn't want us to go out on, I lived at 578 Jerome Street. Who can forget? And it was kind of wild back then. East New York was kind of wild. So she had knitting classes. I was 7 years old. And then I would help her sew buttons on and do the seams and do all of the little notion work just so I can be closer to her. And didn't realize how much that would have impacted me. And because my finger was so small while I was doing my stitches, I got into cross stitching as an adult. So I cross stitch, knit, crochet, and never considered that to be a fiber artist until I met Yvette Robinson from the East Lansing Public Art Gallery. So as an adult, I started quilting.
I love that.
I started quilting because Jessie Gregg from Seams started sewing masks for people during the pandemic. And this little shop in East Lansing became the point where all of the seamstresses were going to pick up 9x6 squares to sew the masks, elastic buttons, and all of that. So at the end of the pandemic, whatever that means, I had a stack of 9x6 squares and just started sewing them together as quilts.
Wow. So tell us a little bit, since you're talking about the quilts. I've always wanted to learn how to quilt, so my heart is like, I'm so excited. Tell us about the event that's happening, the art and knitting, poetry, quilting and stitching. What is that? Tell us about
It's my first art show.
Okay.
I really feel like I'm growing right now. It's an interesting space to be in. We're all like morphing and growing, and people don't realize that even when you're older, you have this huge space of growth and trying to fill in spaces that you were in. I never knew I was an artist or a fiber artist. I didn't think about that, as I stated before. But on March 8th at 1 o'clock, I'll be showcasing my fiber arts and some poetry.
Okay, March 8th. I love that. Well, that's good.
That goes, again, going back to that idea of these little different parts of ourselves. And I feel like they're somewhat changing often, right? And as you grow, I know the things that you do, or maybe you liked in your 20s, and then maybe they come back around again in your 50s, or, as a child, making doing the stuff with, that you were just mentioning about
it's a lot, and there's a lot going on right now, and you're thinking about all of the things that you're doing in life. I wrote a poem, and I always use it as a part of everything. It's called The Bully, and I'll just do a little piece for you. Okay. And I wrote it as a result of being bullied as a child. And even though you see someone in their present state, you just never know what they've been going through. So this is The Bully. You were the reason why I never thought I was beautiful. Could it be the things you said to me when I was youthful? When I was trying to figure out why my face wasn't as pretty as yours, and why no party invitations hung on my doors. Your taunts still haunt me.
Wow. That truly resonated with me. And I tell you why, because I was bullied. And there's a couple of things that you're saying. I believe in interviews being really ordained. And I believe this is like my second interview that I thought, I was like, okay, I'm supposed to be in this space. Thank you for sharing that. And also something else that you shared about when you get older, you kind of go through this growth thing. I just turned 56, and I got a bicycle all over the weekend. So,
nice.
So there's some things that I experienced in my youth that I'm finding myself going back to because it's bringing me joy.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's bringing me joy. Quilting, I've always wanted to learn how to quilt and knit.
There are so many places that you can learn how to quilt here.
Yeah.
So many places you can learn how to knit here.
Yeah.
All you do is go out online and put in, I'm a beginning knitter.
Yeah.
Where can I go?
Yeah.
And it's that time for us to be in a space where we're doing things that bring us joy.
Bring us joy.
Yeah.
Tell us. Oh, I'm sorry, Amy. I'm just.
Oh, gotcha. I was just going to make one comment about. I did cross stitching as a kid, in my early years, and I just recently sort of picked it back up, just because, like you said, those things that bring us joy, and maybe we come back to in that.
I love that. I love that.
I hope you take that opportunity to get them framed or frame them. If you do, I can tell you exactly how to do it without paying $1 million. It's a very interesting face to put on when you are redefining yourself, or you are getting to know yourself a lot better and being better.
Yeah.
You know what I was going to ask? What were you going to say?
Go ahead.
No. I was just going to ask about, because you mentioned reading. What impact have libraries had in your life? I knew I was going to hit something there.
I love libraries so much. Like I said, I'm from New York and I'm a first generation American. So when I lived in New York, it wasn't too bad. But then we moved to Long Island, which was like moving from Detroit to Sunfield, Michigan. So I had this teacher, and I didn't know my times tables because we didn't learn that yet. But I was pretty smart in my other school, but I just didn't know what was going on in this school. And so I was sitting out in the hallway because she put me in the hallway, and I was so defiant. Listen, I was like, oh, this lady, I just don't like her, and scooted all the way down the hallway, not knowing where I was going, dust all on my bum, and just sat there in front of this display case. And the woman came out and she said, can I help you? What are you doing? Something to that. What are you doing here? And I was like, I'm out in the hallway. She said, get up, dust yourself off, and come in here. And it was the library. Miss Levine. When I tell you I've been trying to find her forever, at least her family, I've always had a ultimate respect for librarians. So I ended up working in the library in fourth grades, helping people sign out books. And I think I read every single book in there until I got around to the sports section. My signature today is as a result of a signature on a baseball that I read in fourth grade. Wow. Miss Levine has, over the years, even when I was in college, I worked for Columbia University's library school, raising money for them.
Oh, wow. So you have a love for libraries.
I have a definite love for libraries. I have a little library in front of my home. I helped Walnut Neighborhood Organization build more libraries and put more libraries into the community, and we just love books.
Yeah, I knew that was special.
It's so special. Makes me misty.
Well, Rena, we're kind of at the end of time, but is there something that you're working on or pursuing? You mentioned a video series that you've been working on. So
absolutely. I have a YouTube channel, and I'm working on documentaries on doulas, midwives, and breastfeeding. I feel like that's a very important issue right now for women and men, because a lot of people don't understand that sometimes we need to get them more involved, and community. So Michigan has all of these programs to help families grow, but I don't think that we really know enough about them. In 2023, Governor Whitmer put into place where women who are on Medicaid can get a doula. And you can get a postpartum doula up to 1 year after you have a baby. I thought, wow, yeah. That's great. So I was very interested in that, and just noting that we have a very high infant mortality rate. I've been watching the infant mortality rate in Michigan since 2017. I mean, it's gone down some, but it's still at the 6%. And most deaths, either infant or maternal mortality, are preventable. Also, we have SOS Maternity. We are a part of a collaboration of hospitals working together, and this is University of Michigan Sparrow. So I'll give you the links to the documentaries. I'll give you a link to the SOS program, because you have to sign up for it. I'll also send you the link for 4K. I think that it's important that people know that if you have a 4-year-old, you can get them in school.
Yes, universal preschool.
It saves you about $10,000 a year.
It's so important too.
So thank you for asking that. Thank you both so much for having me here.
Well, thank you for joining us today, and we'll put the links in that you send us into the show notes as well, so our listeners can check those out if they need to. And anything else, Robin?
No. I'm just so happy that you graced us with your presence.
I am
today.
so happy that you both graced me with your presence and enjoy the treats that I.
Thank
well,
you.
brought
thank
you.
you. Yes.
Thank you, because I
Thank
love notepads and stuff. You know how I feel about that. So
Can't
thank
beat
you so
those.
much.
Well, thank you for being here, and thanks to everybody for listening.
Yes. You have been listening to Written in the Stars, Books and Beyond. Visit lcc.edu/library to find the titles discussed in this episode. You can find previous episodes of Written in the Stars and other LCC Connect shows at lccconnect.com. In the words of Miguel de Amuno, I hope, reader, we shall meet again and we shall recognize each other.